Uh, uh, anyway, so I'm here. I said I'd be here, but you, the audience, need to show up. I'll give you a few minutes. I'll start babbling, or you know what I might even do. Let's see. Do, do, do. Let's read some more of my novel. I'll try and find a less um, squirrely part. Boop, 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 boop. So, ear hair was a motivated by hair growing out of my ears to the point where I looked like I had bushes on either side of my head. So I read the first 7 pages, and it kind of, I don't know, it didn't even get posted. Some people watched it live and thought it was interesting, but if you weren't one of those handful of folk, then you missed out. So I'll read some more. That's not as, it'll be interesting, but it won't be okay. Let's see. Do 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 do. Where will we start? Why not just anywhere? I mean, that's one of the great things about my novels. You can just go, I'm going to start right here. Okay, so here we go. And I won't even explain who, what, or anything anybody is, or where this is. I'm like picking up from page. What page is this? Okay, page 9. Right. We're going to start with Which Way Will You Turn? Act 1, Words of Pluggy Boom Boom, written down by D.O.B.D.M. Rushing down the back roads of the last refuge of narcissism, sociopathic, non-sustainable, mercenary, mercantile, extinction, addiction. Let's read that again. Rushing down the back roads of the last refuge of narcissism's sociopathic, non-sustainable, mercenary, mercantile, extinction, addiction. That's a nice sentence, don't you think? That is where we are today. Peter was like a shark. Peter could not stop his movements of consuming, thinking he was Donnie Chump, magging his next scam, nor could the rest of the mud puppets, all rushing, falling full speed towards the big splat. Mud flood, faster than gravity, like the towers of Babel on 9/11. Stan the man, Stan, and LBJ, Little Black Jesus, were in a titty bar, the horny hand dog, getting lap dances by multiple copies of the pink-headed nurse. All around were jumbotrons showing like a travelogue of horrific mud puppet catastrophes. Stan said, "Well, brother, things are just zooming along like clockwork." LBJ, Little Black Jesus, Stan, there is no time left. Stan, that's the beauty of it. The inertia of the billions of years of Gob's big lie has energized this horror show into a eternal Mobius loop of unspeakable pain and sorrow. And stuck out here in the backwaters of nothingness, no one who matters cares. Little Black Jesus snapped his fingers. No longer was LBJ in the big hall of the 9 doors of the titty bar, the handy horny dog, surrounded by news porn of the mud puppet tomorrow of Gob's big lie, never ending sadism. In less than a blink of nothing, Little Black Jesus was in the burning bushes, conscious awareness, just stepping off the bridge that connects ego's illusion, reflection of the Akashic Records code of the totem pole, with the we and me co-creation of one love's conscious intent of all our relations work in progress. Little Black Jesus closed his third eyes, Father Sky Eye, Mother Earth's heart, all our relations, we and me's Holy Spirit, eternal twin flame. Little Black Jesus was welcomed home by the burning bushes, superconscious, where all things were as they should be. Awareness was 360. To the south was the great waters of the Great Link. With one drop of those sacred waters, all was revealed. To the west was the great lawn of grace's fellowship of unconditional forgiveness. Joy, all actualized by love's co-creation within all our relations. To the north was the festival of the arts, of the artist in the first person. To the east was the great long house. Here all could be in good thoughts, bringing good words, bringing good actions, bringing good outcomes. Being as all our relations in the state of awakened, radiant bliss, Little Black Jesus was luminescently free without any need of ego's self-loathing. Little Black Jesus had no faith of the body's dialectic. No. And, Little Black Jesus, if you put the just, shortened LBJ, LBJ had no filth of the body's dialectic and floated amongst all our relations in one love, with a thought of overstanding the plight of all those stuck in the news porn of the mud puppets tomorrow of Gob's big lie of never-ending sadism. Peter's counterintuitive plight of being the family guy, taking love's fork in all our relations, work in progress, and still being the poster boy of big jokebok Peter's family, all the never-ending dying Plato's canary in a sadistic cave of the dead Gob's golden rule. No one has the gold and never did. The biggest lie was that any mud puppet could be a Gob ruler, the power who should never be, the powers that could never be. For only love exists, is the work in progress. Little Black Jesus, the Prince of Peace's love, couldn't seem to fix the dead end of all our relations' never-ending misery with this thought. Little Black Jesus found its spirit rise from the great lawn and up the steps of the gazebo of the Oracle of Delphi, being elevated to overstand this issue of great gravity, how to unstick Peter and his family, not just his nuclear family, but the fusion of all our relations stuck to Gob's dead ego. Little black Jesus faced north to view all the arts as the Aboriginal spirit of the first peoples, to go to co create with love's one love gratitude, with conscious intent. I am. That issue that little black Jesus felt with empathy for all our relations that were still stuck in Gob's dead big lie. Little black Jesus used the sacred triangle breath. In for 3 beats, hold for 6 beats, out for 9 beats, the great maker's heart. LBJ, Little Black Jesus, conscious awareness I am, turned 180 facing south to the great waters of the great link. With one drop, those sacred waters, all was revealed. Facing LBJ was love's one love as a young girl, yellow bowed pigtails, red satin gown, and emerald slippers. Feeling LBJ's response to her presence, she spoke. Who were you expecting? The burning bush? You know what lower on the totem pole represents? Of course you do. Well, not to brag, only ant and turtle are below me. You, the burning bush, and all your relations are the we in me. So let us dance around the gravity of this problem you think you have. And with that, the pigtailed girl, the TPG, snapped her fingers, and the gazebo transformed into a flying disc and started to revolve and rise through the blue sky up to the darkness of the starry, starry night and the dark matter space of dreamy dreamland. Okay, I think that's enough. And that was one page of 250. What do you think? You like that? Here, let's go back and see if any of you are there. Let's see, is anybody home? No, there's one thumbs up. Nobody said anything. And I've read, well, I could read all of that in less than 10 minutes. Not bad. So, let's see, what time is it? I'm probably getting close towards 9. 8:58, yep, or 8:53. So, I earlier left a about 40-minute little talk around 6:30 to 7:30, and I told about my day, and that I had breakfast at one of my favorite spots, and an unbelievable event occurred where I just had my eyes operated on, so they were dilated, so I couldn't see anything. So I was writing, in my novel of ear hair that I just read through one page 9, and I increased the size of the letters on the screen here on my laptop so I could see them. But pretty much anybody who was sitting behind me could read my book. And this guy at the bar said, "Are you a writer?" And, I'm like clicking away on the laptop. And I said, "Yeah, well, I guess I am. Here it is." And he goes, "I read it. It's a pretty amazing book. What is that?" I said, "Well, it's the story of my life." And he said, "That stuff happened?" I said, "Yep." He says, "Wow, it's like poetry." He goes, I'm a rapper. I write poetry too." I said, "Oh, that's nice." We started talking, and he had read certain parts of it about, what's going on. And he says, "Is that, I know, I feel things and I know something's wrong." I said, "Yep, something's wrong. All right." And we started having a conversation. And as I was filling him in on the things that most people don't have a clue, he was like that, right? And there was two, and he was a black guy, a black rapper guy, probably 25. And then there was these other two black guys, maybe somewhere between 22 and 25. And they started asking me questions about this, that, and the other thing, right? And I started explaining everything and showing them how to go into state and how to meditate and how to see truth and reality. And another couple of black guys came over and were listening and were like, "Whoa!" And they were like, you know, um, reading my stuff on my screen here, and they were all, I was telling about aliens and reptiles and you name it. I was telling them about it, and I kept saying, don't believe a word I say," right? And then this black guy in his 30s, and he was cut, meaning he was, really in shape, and he was wearing not military clothes, but pretty much military clothes. I mean, very neat, very, fit him perfectly. The shoes he was wearing were like, not boots, but not Air Jordans, and so. And he said to these 6 black young men, "Don't believe a word this white guy. He's trying to distract you. He's trying to tell you stories. He's trying." And I said, whatever I've been keep saying here, don't believe a word I say. This is just a story. Anyway, so he was trying to deconstruct what I had been talking about, right? About 9/11, about this, about that, about government, about you name it. And he basically talked for 20 minutes, and I didn't say a word. I didn't say, "Oh, you're wrong." I didn't try to argue with him. I just sat there and listened to him, just kept my mouth shut, right? And the guys were the ones who go, "No, he's right, blah, blah, blah." And he's like trying to get them to realize that, they have to, toe the line and stay in school and blah, 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 right? And he was right, in his dynamic of saying you got to represent, right? And pull those pants up and blah, 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 right? So anyways, but in the 20 minutes that he was trying to get them to toe the line so everyone would represent, he basically, because he had been in country, he had been in Afghanistan, he had been in Iraq, and he'd also been in about 20 other countries in Africa, right? And so he started basically telling those stories about all the things he saw, and he saw some pretty wild, crazy things, because he wasn't just a foot soldier, he was a little higher up in the ranks. So he saw what the CIA had done, what the State Department had done. He was in Iraq when he was part of the crew that was looking for the WMDs, and he told the whole story better than I could about Brenna and everything, and how they, really caused the destruction of the Mid East, all for oil and distraction and disruption, and how they're going. And he was going on about New World Order, and he came 180 around and was like talking like me. And the guys were like, went from trying to defend what I said to like really enthralled by what he was saying. And while that was going on, so this place is like Archie Bunker meets Sanford and Son, right? And it's this place where, street people of both white and black come and they say, "We're not going to fight here. We're going to just have a good time." And so there were about 10 white people who were sitting close to this conversation. And, 6 of them got closer and closer and were like listening to everything and going, "Wow, yes, I felt that way too." And about 4 freaked out and went to the other end of the restaurant to get away from this conversation. And the owner and the 2 managers were like behind the bar listening, because we're just like 4 feet from them, and they're like listening to everything. And I've known these people 20 years, and when I walked in this morning, after I had my eyes worked on, I walked in around 10:30. I hadn't seen them in 2 years. "Oh, where have you been? We thought you were dead. What about?" And I kind of said, "No, I just wasn't here. I was someplace else." And then I sat at my table, and they brought me the breakfast I always had, and a very nice omelet, and they brought me coffee and hush puppies, and they had these cheesy tater tots and this really good what do you call that stuff? Grits. And that's my favorite, at least they're my favorite breakfast. And it's only $9, right? it went up $2. It was $11. So anyway, and I had no money, and I looked in my wallet, and I took everything out, and there was $20. It's like, okay, I have money to buy my breakfast, and so and I had my breakfast, and I started, got out my laptop and started working on my novel, and that's when this whole conversation. So we first had, where have you been? I told them, was having breakfast. Two of the waitresses had me read their palms and give them advice about this, that, and the other thing. That's why I have my table. It's kind of in the back, warm part of the joint, and it's a kind of speakeasy. There's really only one big window. The rest is all pretty dark, and my eyes were totally whacked out. So I had rewired that thing so many times that I knew where where all the switches and rheostats, and so I kind of turned all the lights way down low, so I could, it wouldn't be like right. And so see how the lights behind me? That's how everything looked. And so anyway, the owner came in and said, "Why is it so dark?" And they all pointed to me, and he said, "Ow, what are you doing? I thought you were dead." And I said, "Well, I just had my eyes worked on," and so he said, "Oh, that's why you turned the lights on?" I said, "Yes." And I said, "Okay, no problem." So what he did was he turned all the light bulbs around me, and 2 or 3 tables on either side of me. He turned all those off, and then he jacked the lights up, by, instead of full blast, by a quarter, right? So it was a quarter brighter, but it was okay. My eyes didn't hurt. So anyway, and then I had my breakfast. He sat and talked to me a little bit, asked me a few questions about this and the other thing. And then, I had my breakfast, and then I started working on my novel. And then the black guy said, "Are you a writer?" And so this whole thing kind of went from that to that to that to where about 40 minutes later, I didn't say a word, but a new thing has occurred. Sandra, how you doing, girl? A new thing had occurred where these people who had a perestroika, where, and sometimes they would kind of play pool with each other and play cards with each other and maybe dance with each other and maybe, have sex in the back parking lot with each other. But they never kind of realized what their communities were like, right? They never made that. But with this 40-minute conversation, people kind of were like, and so I hadn't said anything, except for the first 20 minutes with the first 6 young black guys. And then the, 30 to 40-year-old military black guy came and, did his thing and brought the conversation from, "This guy is trying to lead you astray. He's the white devil. Don't listen to him," to, "He's saying exactly what's happening." So, and I said nothing. And those kids, 22-year-olds, 24-year-olds were like, "No, he's right. I feel it. Blah, blah, blah." And then the 6 of the white people came in and were, instead of being white people and black people, they kind of were like on the same page. And I'm like looking at it and going, okay, my job is done here. Right? So I say, I start packing things up, and and I say, okay, I got to go. But I say to the military guy, I said, "Let me shake your hand. I want to say that you weren't part of this conversation. I saw you over there, and you were leaving, and you stopped, you turned around, you came, and you got involved. You stepped up to being your best, and you just did an amazing job." And then he hugged me, right? And he said, "Who are you?" And I said, "I'm Sensei Al Bob." And then he said, "What is that?" And I said, "I am your friend and always will be." And then we all, the white and black people, we all had a group hug. And I walked out, and the owner and the 2 managers who were like just on the other side of the bar were like shaking their heads. And I said, "Yep, my job is done here. I'll see you." And then one of the young guys said, "Well, how am I ever going to see you again?" And I said, "Well, go look on Dreamy Dreamland and see what it is." And I have breakfast here. And I said to the manager, "How many times do I eat here a week? And she goes, oh, about 3 times. I said, so I'll be here for breakfast at least 3 times a week, right? And so I went on my way. What is exposed into the light becomes the light, and that really is what happened. And it was a really dark space, so it was completely that. And so that was, that was kind of fun. I had no expectations of that. I had nothing to. I mean, I just told a story or two, and these 12 people now are a new entity. And so as a new biological entity, they may kind of grow and grow and grow and heal the planet. I have no idea, but it could. That could happen. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm seeing that is more the potential for what's going to go on. That all the crap that the powers that shouldn't be are trying to throw against the wall because they're so desperate, because they're losing control. Red wine. And this is Bay Bridge. It is Kroger's like house blend. And this is a Cabernet Sauvignon. Excellent. For $2.50. You can't beat it. I mean, this is good wine. Not just, it's not like, Sneaky Pete. This is pretty good stuff. So, guys, our eyes aren't working that great. So, if you could put it in caps, Yep. Boy, I can't pronounce it. Vowzer. Wowzer. Okay. So, did you guys, Sandra? Did you see last night's marathon? I went on for 6 hours. Just kept telling story after story after story. And did any of you see that? What'd you think? You should go back and watch that one. That was a pretty good one. And about 65 people watched it. And I had about 18 thumbs up. And it went on for 6 hours. But the watch time, Wowzer. What the heck is Wowzer? And now I can read it. Thanks for the caps. Right? It had like 30 hours of watch time. So when I went back and looked at the numbers after it got posted, it said 50 something people watched, not 60 something. It said it was 6 hours, but it said only like 20 hours of watch time, right? So, I mean, I'm constantly downgraded on the algorithm. So, but, I saw 10 people today and showed them all my channel and had them, say, I'll watch it, subscribe, said, here, just hit that subscribe button, hit that bell. But anyway, my eyes are way better than they were earlier today, and no, but I will. Good. Okay. Oh man. So, so I was going on. So last night's stories were a marathon of love stories, and kind of all of the things that I've been exposed to, like aliens and underground societies and, things of that nature, and lots of Nazis. So here's a good Nazi story. So in 88, 89, I was sitting in my abandoned building, and my phone rang, not my cell phone, but my landline. And it takes a lot of oomph to be able to get a landline put into an abandoned building. They usually want you to have a legal address, but I was the dude, and I had this, and the phone guy showed up, and he was so freaked out about, me living in the hood of the Alphabet City, um, and everyone, crack everywhere, and he was scared, so he basically, I heard his honk, 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 and I looked out the window, and there's a phone truck, right? So I go downstairs, and he goes, I don't want to get out of the truck. Are you so and so? I said, yeah. And he goes, so listen, what I want you to do is, and he gets out of the truck, and he hands me a bag of tools, right? And it has the man's phone, right? And this one wasn't a dial; it had the push buttons, and it had a audio generator, so you could push this little button and put the clips on a wire, and it would send a signal, and then you have this little wand that you could find the wires that were sending the signal, right? So he said, okay, the one box that works is like 3 blocks away. Here is, this, I'm putting it right on to the wires that's supposed to go to your building, right? It's now sending a signal out there. So, and then he said, he gave me like 8,000 miles of outdoor phone wire and about 1,000 miles of indoor phone wire, a staple gun, and 5 phones. Super duper red one, super duper yellow one, a green one, a blue one, and a princess phone. And so anyway, he gave me a whole bunch of phones, and he said, I'm going to quit today. So I'm just giving you all this stuff because it doesn't matter, and you can put it in, right? And because for me to even try and do it, or to say that I can't do it, or any of the above, and they sent me out here because they want me to retire. And this is it. You're the guy. You're my last client, and I'm giving you everything out of the truck, right? And I'll just drive back. Well, you want the truck? I'll just take the subway, I said, no, I don't think I should take the truck, but I'll take all this other stuff, right? And so that's how I got a phone in an abandoned building. And I made it a party line for all the other abandoned buildings that we had. And it was like old time party line, right? So the phone rings one day, and I'm sitting in, and I had this great like space chair that I found, somebody threw it away, but it was red leather, real leather, but it had no legs or anything. It was just a space chair, and it was so comfy. And I basically found a plywood box, and I tried, and the space chair fit right in it perfectly, so you could move it anywhere you wanted, and it would still be, and it was up about a foot, so it was perfect. And so I had the emergency red phone right by, so when you were in the red chair, you could just grab the phone. So I grabbed the phone, and when it was ringing, and I said, hey, yellow, and they said, is this Al Bob? And I said, who wants to know? And he goes, I'm Senor Miguel Sanchez, and I'm calling you from Brazil. I said, oh, really? And he goes, do you know a man named Michael Keane? I said, yes. Click. I hung up. Ring, 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 ring. Why did you? I said, well, he owes me $500, and if he's trouble, I don't want to even know. Click. Ring, 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 ring. No, don't hang up on me. I have a deal for you. And I said, okay, what's the deal? And he goes, well, did you build Xenon the disco in Times Square in New York City? I said, yeah. Well, I lit it. I wired it. Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm. I did design the effects. Yep. I would, and I guess, but I didn't build the building, and I didn't, I wasn't the contractor, but I was the lighting designer, aesthetic designer, the electrician, right? I made it work because all the work was kind of done. They had about 8 different electricians, but they could never get it to work. I came in, made everything work. And that's what I do very well. So he goes, well, we want you to come to Buzios, Brazil, and the madame wants you to build a disco like that on the beach. I said, well, that's nice. Click, ring, ring, ring. No, stop hanging up on me. We will pay you a lot of money. I said, really? How much? Whatever you want. Really? Okay. And he goes, to show you our, we are going to, go down to the Pan Am building, go into the such and such travel agency on the 34th Street there, and go in, and you have your passport? I said, oh yeah. Show them the passport, and they will give you an envelope with $5,000 in cash. And they said, that is just you don't have to come. That is just to show you that we're serious. And I said, oh, okay. And I said, well, it's like 2 p.m. here in New York. Can I run down there now and get that envelope? And he goes, yes. I said, okay. And then if you see how serious we are, you tell him you want to, and he will book you the airplane and you will fly here within 2 days. I said, how about 5 days? I have stuff to do. If I'm going to build this thing for you, it's going to take some time. So I have to, pull things together so I can leave without leaving people in the lurch. He goes, okay, 5 days. So I go down there. There's 5,000 in cash, right? I say, and they sign me up to like first class all the way. Okay. So I clean up everything, close up the house, and they send a limousine for me, takes me to the airport, and I get on the air, and I don't even have to go through anything. They drive me out onto the tarmac. I get out, the guy opens the door. I go up these steps. I go through the door, and I'm at the gate. Right? I have my ticket, and I have this other little thing. I show it to the girl at the gate. She goes, oh, and she called me doctor. Doctor, we heard you were coming. I said, okay. When the plane will leave in an hour, but you can go to the, VIP lounge and have a cocktail. I said, okay. So I did, and I had the little weenies and the whole thing. And then they came and got me. I got on the first class, and it was like, best first class. I mean, it was like I had like a little stateroom. It was a 747. I had a little stateroom that the chair that was uber comfy slid down and turned into a bed, And so, okay, this is nice. And, we take off, before we take off, they have cocktails and hors d'oeuvres. And that, and then they, have me buckle myself in, and we take off. And then after the plane takes off, the upstairs of the 747, they have a lounge for the VIPs. And so I go up there and have some more cocktails and talk to a few people. And then I have dinner up there at a table with a tablecloth, not just in my little suite. And in the suite, it was really nice. I had a robe and pajamas and slippers and creams and little, things to put over your eyes and little things for your ears so you don't. Anyway, so, I had a nice little dinner and talked to people, some cocktails, and then, I went down and went to sleep. I woke up and had a nice, beautiful breakfast and, walked around and, in the upstairs thing, they actually had a little Jimmy thing if I wanted to run on the the little rubber mat that moved. Anyway, so it took like 14 hours or so to go to New York to San Paulo, and I get off, and I had nothing, right? Zip, right? And I get up the airplane, and everybody else, like who weren't in first class, had piles and piles of like appliances. And as they went through customs, they would hand the customs guy a microwave oven, and he would say fine, and they would go with a trolley, and they wouldn't declare anything. Anyway, I had nothing, because my experience is you do a thing like this, you have no idea. So I brought nothing except a few things I needed, in a little bag over my shoulder. Anyway, so I didn't have any microwaves to give to them, and I didn't take all the money with me. I just put the $4,000 in my bank account and took $1,000 with me. And anyway, so because I wasn't going to pay them off, they kind of were going to like try to make me scared, and they put me in a room, right? And I sat in the room for no more than 5 minutes, and this guy in a really nice suit, very tall, very dapper, and there was the lawyer, and he goes, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I should have met you, at the door of the airplane, and I was a little late, but it's all straightened out, and you don't have to go through customs. We're going to go down the stairs, and my car is waiting." And so we did, and we drove all the way to Buzios, and when we got there, we're driving in, and it's a peninsula. Buzios, a little peninsula, sticks out in the Atlantic, and it's kind of right on the edge of the hot zone, the Bermuda Triangle. Not so much in it, but right on the edge. It's like right over there, right? And so we're pulling into town, and you come in. It's a big, you come in, and you go down this road, down a hill towards the ocean, and on the sides are farms, and then you come around the beach, and there's all these hotels and stuff for the tourists, and very high end, right? And then you come, and it's this circle in the middle of town with a big fountain, and it goes in 3 different ways. And one keeps going along around the peninsula out the way it came, but there's a fishing village over there. And another place you go up is a hospital, and another place, the next one is you go past the hospital, and there are all these like big, fancy, schmoozy houses, big, like 20,000 square, like castles, right? Anyway, so we pull into one, and he goes, "Now, when you meet the madam, do not look her in the eyes and say nothing about how she looks." Anyway, when we come into the place in front of the joint, it was like straight out of Star Wars. It was like when Luke, goes to get, Han Solo, who's like frozen on the wall, and there's, Jabba the Hutt. This lady looked just like Jabba the Hutt, right? She was eating the little things in a bowl, and all the other people, all the sycophants around. Anyway, I couldn't help myself but stare at her. And, and the lawyer's like, don't stare. And I'm like, and, she looks at me and goes, "So you did Xenons?" I said, "Yep." This is the lawyer and I. We were in New York a year ago. We went there, and I was so impressed. I want you to build me a disco on the beach. I said, "Oh, well." I'm still like, and she goes, "Well, what's the matter?" And I said, "What are you? I've never seen anyone," and I said, "so fat," right? Shouldn't have said that. And everyone's like, they were all like, and then as soon as I said, "You're so fat," and then, I was, everyone was seeing if I was standing on the trap door, and she just started to laugh. And she goes, "You'll be fine. You are the boy. If you can build me the disco I want, it'll be fine. We'll be fast friends." And she goes, "Now the lawyer will take you to where you're going to stay." And so, no, but I will. What is shaking, Al Bob? Things about your body. Well, I'm sitting in a revolving chair, and I'm holding my laptop in my hand, so that's kind of, and I'm like, this is a simulation of what we are going through right now. This is the 19. And you think things are weird now? Woo! wait till after New Year's. Woo. So that's, that's what these stories are. This is a simulation to get you ready to be able to sustain the weirdness that's coming. It's not going to be any weirder than the weirdness that's already been here. It's just going to be advertised as weirder. Let me look at how things are being advertised in the fear porn of the news, right? I mean, you got to wear a mask, stay 6 feet away, and get your shots, right? Well, what about vitamin C and, vitamin K and zinc and D3 and QOC3 and, there are a lot of supplements that I take during the flu season not to get sick, They don't, Dr. Fauci doesn't mention any of that, And washing your hands, I have my little spritzer bottle with me, and everything I touch, I just do this, and rub a little over my nose. I mean, just, common sense kind of works pretty good. So back to Brazil. So the lawyer takes me down into the fishing village and pulls up to this house that's right on the water, and there's a little house on stilts in the water, and there's a house kind of up the hill a little bit, very nice little house, beautiful little porch around it, and all the nets everywhere and the boats everywhere. It's very, very, very fishing village, straight out of Hallmark. And so, knock, knock, knock. This very attractive young girl answers, and in Portuguese says, "Yeah, what do you want?" "Oh, it's you, Mr. Lawyer." "Oh, excuse me." And he goes, "This is the guy who's going to move in your house. So move out of your house." And I look in the house, and there's a guy in a wheelchair, grandpa. It's about 8 other kids, mom, and they're very attractive girls, like obviously the oldest child. And there's a whole bunch, right? And everyone's like, oh, gnashing their teeth, crying. And the girl turns to me and says in English, "Do you speak Portuguese?" I said, "No." "But you speak very good English very well." She goes, "Oh, yes, I work at the hotel. And yes, I spent 1 year in university. I went to, I've got a, I've learned English, right, from the tourists, right?" So anyway, I go, listen. And the lawyer says, "Get out," and then he says to me, "I got to go. I'll come and pick you up in the morning, and we're going to go visit the chief of police." And I say, "Okay." So he leaves, and everyone's like gathering this stuff up. And I go, wait a minute. "No, you guys stay here." And she goes, "Really?" I said, "What is that thing over there?" "Well, that's where we were going to go live." "But it's one room. This is a real house. There's, 10 of you, And I said, "Why don't you show me this place?" And so I go in there, and it's, a room that's, 20 by 20. And there's one door in, and then there's a door out, and there's a dock, but there's a really beautiful, deck around the back, very, almost as big as the room, right? And half the roof goes over the deck. And so I said, "This will be fine for me. All I need is a bed, table, chair, maybe an armoire or a closet or a pole when I get close to hang them up. And is there John here?" And she kind of takes me into this closet where there's a hole in it, and there's a water down there. I said, "Really? Just right there?" And he said, "Yep, that's what we do with this." And I said, "Okay, if that's, in Rome, that's how I'll go." And anyway, and she goes, "The water moves through here. The tide is very strong, and there's not many of us, so it's no big deal." So, okay. And so she comes in with mom and the older brothers, and they carry in this really beautiful bed, metal, 4-poster, really nice, king size, beautiful bed. And the girl said, "Well, this used to be my parents' bed, and they just got it, but then my father died, and my mother doesn't want to sleep in it, so no one slept in it, and so we're going to put this here, and you can sleep in it." And they had mosquito nets over it, and they had this like little mosquito net tent that they put up, and they put a table inside with a nice chair and a lamp, and they ran a cord out, um, to their house. And so, and a fan, and it was, you couldn't beat it, right? And so, they did that, and I said thank you very much. And then the girl came back, and she had a tray with all these favelas. They're like these little pies, meat pies, vegetable pies, really, really like samosas, but better. And she had a pitcher of fruit juice that was just the best and really cold. And I said, there's ice. Where'd you get the ice? And she goes, oh, we actually have a pretty fancy refrigerator that Madame gave us when my father died. And it, I said, where do you get the water for the ice? And I was scared that they were like taking it from the water where I was crapping into. She said, oh no, the water that we drink, we have all a catchment on our roof. All the water that hits our roof goes into a big thing, and it's potable. And I said, oh, and she goes, and that's we have no water lines, we have no wells, we have none of that, but it rains here every day, and this works out pretty good for everybody. Okay, so I had and so every morning she would come in, and she would her mother and her made me clothes, because I only had one. I had these black pants and a Hawaiian shirt, and they made me linen pants and silk shirts, right? And I had a straw hat, but it was one of their. It's like big brim, and it just pops up enough for cover your head. It's not like round or cowboy hat or anything, but very cool, very, very nice. And a cane. She gave me a cane, right? Because she goes, all gentlemen need a cane, right? Then she introduced me to her younger brother, right? And he was learning English. And she goes, he's a pistol, right? And he knows everyone, and he will, whatever you need, he will get for you. I said, that sounds just the guy I need. And he was about 8. And so I looked at him, and he looked just like what I look like at 8. This little peanut of a kid that was really sharp, and had it. And he kept calling me sir, yes sir, yes. I said, you're gonna call me sir? Yes sir. Can I stop you from calling me sir? No sir. And then he said, what do you think you're going to call the club? And I said to him, well, what do you think I should call the club? And he goes, well, one of my favorite movies is Casablanca, and I think you should call it Rick's. And I built another, nightclub in the Grill of Jamaica. And if you were to go to Google and say, you Google the Grill Jamaica bar nightclub Rick's, it'll show it, right? And there it is. And I was brought there because I had no electricity, but they wanted a disco, and so I had to figure out how to make electricity there in the grill before electricity ever showed up. So anyway, I said Rick's. So he goes, I won't call you sir, I will call you Sir Rick, or Mr. Rick, or Dr. Rick. And I will say one of those three when it is the most appropriate. I said, sounds good to me. So he was, he always walked in front of me. He always he was my gatekeeper. Whenever we did anything, he was right there. And people kind of knew him, and were anyway. So that was the first day in Buzios, right? Next day I wake up, and, Miguel was, my man, and he and his older sister showed up, right? And he kept trying to hook me and the older sister up, right? But I had this sense that she wasn't a big fan of men per se, right? And Catholic, Portuguese, Brazil, not so right. So anyway, um, one day, pretty much and I said, Miguel, your sister is your sister, not my girlfriend. She is the head of your household. You have to give her respect. You're the youngest one of this family. You can't, you are not the patriarch of the family. You think you are, you act like you are, you actually kind of control the town, but only because the madame lets you do that. She thinks you're cute, right? So if you want to, your sister is just part of the family, like you are. You're part of my family here. So anyway, he kind of got the thing, and she looked at me and smiled and realized I understood her predilections. And so she became even a nicer friend and took care of me even better. Because she didn't have to worry about me trying to hit on her, right? And so, and she was very good because she worked at the big hotel. She knew all the dirt of what was going on. So she was my inside person. So anyway, I'm having this beautiful breakfast. And, after I finish that, the lawyer shows up in his Rolls Royce with his chauffeur, and his chauffeur was blind. Okay. So anyway, we drive out to the site, and it's amazing. It's beautiful beach, but it's, there's a cliff up here where the road is, and it's, maybe 800 feet down to where the beautiful beach is, and there's no road there, right? And I said, well, before we do anything, you got to have a road. How are you going to get a road down there? He says, not a problem. And so I said, okay. So I said, is there a path down there? And he goes, oh, yes, there is a path. And, we're going to get you a car that will, like a Jeepy kind of police car. And they gave me a police car, right? And it was a Toyota 4-wheel drive police car, right? So I drove around in a police car, right? And Miguel, he wanted to be my chauffeur in the worst. I said, your legs don't even touch the pedals. He goes, I got it. And he had these blocks of wood that he tied on his feet. I said, can you drive this? Sure, I can drive anything. And he could. So Miguel was not only my gatekeeper, my front man, but he was my chauffeur, all 3.5 feet of him. And so, and he had to almost stand to drive this car. So, we the first time we go down there in this 4-wheel drive police car, a policeman drives me down there. And he the road was there, but it's like with all the rain they have, it was more like a riverbed. So he kind of, crumpled down made it so you could, the next time would be easier and going up would be easier, but it's still not the road. Anyway, but it's a way to get down there. So we went down there, and I said to the lawyer, you know what we're going to need? And he goes, what's that? And we're going to need like a construction office. Before we build anything, we're going to have to build like a shack that we can have table, and I can make blueprints and drawings, and we can have meetings and keep, valuables in there. He goes, well, we don't have to worry about values. No one would steal anything because everything's run by the madam and the chief of police, and the chief of police just kills people. I said, oh, okay, sounds good to me. And so it wasn't. Pretty much that was my answer when they would tell me stuff like that. So, sounds good to me. I mean, I had learned that you don't fight City Hall. You kind of go with it, right? So, and as each day went by, things just got weirder and stranger and just off the frigging hook. And the town was, they had nightclubs, they had hotels, but she wanted this, Xenon type of thing right there, right? And so, and they built that little shack like that. Like within 2 days, bingo, there was a shack. Within those 2 days, they had, smashed the road, so it was actually a relatively easily passable road with that police four-wheel drive Toyota, and my chauffeur, Miguel, all 3 feet of him, would drive up, and he loved driving that thing. Anyway, so, um, and I took pictures of every angle of this place and then kind of had them developed and then pinned them up on this pin-up wall I had so I could look at it from every angle to figure out how to place the nightclub, where to put it, what it was going to look like, how it was going to be. And then I had the lawyer, I said, can you have, this 1989, they kind of had the internet. And that little place, Buzio's, actually had it pretty good. So something was going on in that neck of the woods other than just the Euro trash having a good time there. So I asked the lawyer to print up every picture he could find on the internet of the movie Casablanca and pictures of Rick's, right? And he found not only pictures from like the movie, but when they were building the set, they took pictures of everything, right? So he had a ton of pictures of Rick's, of the movie. And so I just took those pictures and kind of cut them up and put them over the juxtaposition of the site. And then there was a builder guy who kind of was more builder than just, the guy who could build thatched huts. And he was like their contractor. He built the hotel. He built the hospital. I said, you got a hospital? Oh, we have 3. 3 hospitals? For the people? Oh, not for the people. No. And I would learn that one of the major things that Buzio was people came there and got plastic surgery to change who they were. I mean, they would look totally different. Not only that, they could change their fingerprints, which I thought was impossible. And not only that, they were in '89 starting to do, DNA, profiles. They could change, anyway, they were telling me they could do these things. And, I was too busy with building a nightclub, but I would hear these, the chief of police. And so, that first day when the lawyer came and we went to see the chief of police, he's this big, like gorilla of a guy, right? And he's got 2 pearl-handled 45s, right? And so we're at his thing, and he's snorting cocaine. And you want a blunt? You're here. You want? Did you ever have a cup of Caprina? Kashaz? Or you drink any Kashaz? And I go, it's 9 a.m. I'm still a little jet lagged. Well, cocaine. I said, no, I don't do that. No, good man. Business first. I said, yeah. So the lawyer said, basically, the police force is your bodyguard, right? Whatever, if there's any problem, they're going to he gives me like a little police walkie-talkie. So just get on this. We'll be right there. I said, okay, sounds like a plan. Good to me. So just before I leave, the chief of police takes one of his, nickel-plated, pearl-handled 45s and says, here, you need a gun. Big man needs gun. I said, why do I need a gun when I have you and your boys? And he chuckled. He goes, still, big man needs gun. I said, I don't want to take your gun. That's a pretty fancy gun. And he goes, no. He opens up the closet. He's got box after box after box after box of, nickel-plated, pearl-handled 45s. I said, no. I'm not. Like I said, I got the radio. This is all I need. I don't need to shoot anybody. And he goes, smart man. So I say, yep, sounds good to me. So, we go back. I kind of have Miguel walk me around town. We go visit his sister at the fancy hotel. And she's like, there's 2 guys who are like the managers, but she runs everything. I mean, everything. Those guys are just, friends of the madame. And but Miguel's sister is running everything. And she was a Capricorn's Capricorn. And she had this beautiful uniform, and she was so proud to be in that uniform. And so anyway, we went and had lunch at that fancy place. And when we were in there, there was this very attractive woman who was, I'm in 1989, 50, 60, 70, 80. I'm like 49. I'm almost 50, right? Not quite. And I haven't really started to get fat. I was probably a good 30 pounds overweight, but I wasn't 240 pounds overweight, right? So I was like, instead of my 180, I was probably 210, right? And, I didn't look that bad. And once I got there, I went back to being 180. And so, the oldest daughter basically introduced me to the most attractive woman in that place. And she's sitting on the veranda and she's having lunch, and she goes, "Doctor, here's another doctor." And and she goes, "You're the guy building the thing on the beach." And I said, "That's right." She goes, "Oh, well, yeah, have lunch with me. Sit down." And she's speaking English very well, not even with an accent. I said, "So you're an American?" "Oh, no. I'm German and Portuguese and Brazilian." "Oh, okay." She goes, "But I went to prep school in the United States. I went to college in the United States, and I went to medical school in the United States, and I worked in, Boston General for 5 years, and but I speak Portuguese, I speak German, I speak French, I speak Latin." I said, "Oh, okay. How about Greek?" "Yes, I speak Greek." "Okay." Yeah. So we sit there and talk and talk and talk. I said, "So you have to get back?" She said, "Well, it's," and she's like hemming and hawing about what I said. "I hear you have 3 hospitals in this town." And she goes, "Yeah." I said, "So, what?" And I said, "What's the population?" She goes, "Oh, about 300. And with the Europeans, there's at any one time, there's maybe 600 Europeans here." I said, "Oh." And I said, and I'm, "So what do they do? And what are they here for?" And she's kind of hemming and hawing about answering this. She says, I'll tell you later. You tell me about you, And so I told her, about me. And I said, "So tell me about where you went to prep school and where you went to college and, all that." So she's telling me. Anyway, so we go on to, where we've had lunch and now we're had cocktails and now we're having tapas. And then the band plays, and I said, "Do you like to dance?" She goes, "Oh, I love to dance. Never find the right dancing partner." I said, "Well, let's try it out." So we did. And so we had a very pleasant time. And she goes, "Do you play Go?" I said, "Yes, I do play Go." She goes, "Oh, boy, I love Go, and no one knows how to play it, but you do." I said, "Yep." And she goes, "Oh, wow." And so she goes, "You're living in Miguel's fisherman house." I said, I'm in the, yes, and I'm in the fisherman house. I'm not in the, oh." And she goes, "I heard a thing that you told them not to move out and you let them." And she goes, "That's very nice. No one of the upstairs," and they took it from the English, the upstairs people and the downstairs people. And meaning the servants live downstairs and the elite are upstairs. Anyway, she goes, "That went, far, and everyone's talking about you and about your, and you look pretty good in those linen pants and silk shirt and your cane and your hat." And they made sandals out of tires for me. And that's what all the poor people, only the rich people had shoes. The poor folks had sandals made out of tires, which were very comfy. So I said, "So how do I get in touch with you?" And she goes, "So you have that police radio, don't you?" I said, "Yep." She goes, "Turn to channel B. That's the hospital channel." and I'm the guy who has the radio. So I turned it, and it'll be like you and I will be the only ones talking on it. I said, really? Well, that's convenient. She goes, yep. And so pretty much we became boyfriend and girlfriend. And, so I didn't want to rush into anything. So, and she goes, I live just over there. And, your chauffeur, little boy, he's asleep in your police car. And I said, okay. And I said, so what's your day like tomorrow? And she goes, I'd love it if you took me and show me where you're going to build the nightclub. I said, so when are you free? She goes, pretty much just hit channel B, get me on the radio, and pretty much anytime. If I'm not doing something, I'm pretty much free. I said, oh, that's pretty good. So next morning, call her up, and Miguel's, oldest sister not only gave me breakfast, she made a picnic basket. I mean, everyone knew everyone's business in this town, except for the Euro trash. They were. And so, I had a picnic basket, a bottle of wine, and more pasties, and some other, like baked yummy things, these custardy cookies. And so, we had that, and she brought some party favors, some interesting pharmaceuticals. And so we went there, and the house was already built, and it had a nice veranda with a table, and you could sit out there. So there was nobody but her and me and Miguel, right? And so he was like being the waiter, taking the stuff out of the basket and giving it to us. And so we talk, and she brings her her Go game, and we play. We start playing Go, and she goes, "You ever a cup of Caprina?" And I go, "What's that?" And she goes, "Oh, it's a cocktail." And so she had a thermos. She had this slushy ice, and it's made from cachaça, which is a plant, and it's like, what's it like? It's like lemon jello. It's which is a Italian liqueur, and tequila and vodka at a zillion proof. I mean, and it has a hallucinogen in it, right? So, she pours me one, and it is the most delicious. And when these cream cookies, it was unfrigging believable. And we had really amazing, like, coffee. So, little coffee, little cookie, cup of Caprina, and playing Go, and she had some spliffs, so we were feeling no pain. And so Miguel's over there kind of asleep in the hammock after he did his job being the waiter, and we're playing Go. And the sun is setting, and he gets up and he throws his clothes off because it's just past the heat of the day, right? And we're in the shade, but it's still, we're all sweating, like everything's sticking to me, everything's sticking to her. And she's, pretty much like she's not wearing any clothes. It's like I'm not wearing any clothes because our clothes are sticking to us. And Miguel was asleep. So he jumps up, he goes, "It's too hot." And he takes his clothes off, and his little naked body runs right in front of us. And he jumps into the ocean. And he's splashing around. "Oh, you got to come in. It's beautiful." It's, and she looks at me and goes, "Let's go swimming." So she takes all her clothes off, and I'm just kind of looking at her doing it. And then she kind of stands me up and then takes my clothes off and gives me the biggest, sweetest kiss, and then runs into the water. And this is like the fifth day I'm there going, I'm glad I came. So I run after her, and, Miguel swims the other end of the beach, being diplomatic, and we kind of consummate our intimate friendship, right? And she goes, "I really haven't had a boyfriend for years." I said, "You got to be kidding me." She goes, "Well, everyone, it's like I know everyone, and so I know everyone, and there's a real class system, and my father's the head doctor at this hospital, and I'm in charge of the hospital, and and I run a clinic for the poor people. So there are a lot of things that I couldn't just have, a boyfriend from that side of the tracks. And all the rich people are so, they almost make me want to vomit. And then the others, I said, the others? Well, people kind of like the madame. I mean, I said, what? I thought she was the only thing close to being, there's other people like her side. No, she goes, no, but it's hard to explain. You'll find out. It's for me. Not talk about that. Let's just kiss and do other things. And I said, sounds good to me. So we do that and we float around and we have a nice time. And then a thunderstorm rolls in, right? And Miguel is way over, like you can't even hear him, see him. And you hear him, a lightning bolt like hits the water and you hear him scream. I go, oh my God, he's dead. And she goes, I don't think so. And he hot tails it, his naked little butt, across the beach and goes into the work shed, right? And slams the door, right? And I go, should we go in there? She goes, no. And I go, what do you mean no? We're out in the middle of open water, and she goes, no. When the lightning hits the water, unless it hits you, you might have a little tingle if it's nearby, but it's really not going to get you. And because we're in the water, the only thing sticking out is our head. There's other things higher than our heads out here in the water, and we're right near the beach, and there are all those trees. It'll hit those trees. And it did, because when the lightning bolt hit over where Miguel was, it didn't hit him, but it hit a tree. And, so I go, I guess so. And she goes, it's very interesting to be in the water during a thunderstorm, during a lightning storm. And I said, what's so interesting? She goes, well, the porpoises will come to us. And I said, really? And she goes, yes. And they're very, very friendly. So I said, okay, sounds good to me. So we're both naked. We're cuddling and doing other things with our naked bodies. And within about 15 minutes, there are a bunch of porpoises just swimming and rubbing up against, and their skin, it's surreal. It is, they're in the water, and yet their skin is slick, like they're in air and it's oiled. It's like very bizarre. And they were very friendly. And they were responding to our amorous behavior with each other, like they wanted to be part of the club. And the lightning bolts are like all around us. And we're being surrounded by porpoises. And it was quite interesting. And that really kind of solidified everything about the doctor and I being together. And so anyway, lightning storm. And when the lightning storm went, away, it didn't last long, because it's like this is a peninsula out in the Atlantic. And so it's like being in Florida, this stuff just kind of goes through. And so once it stopped, we walked naked to the little house, and Miguel was back in the hammock snoring away, right? So I go, okay. So we go into the shack, and there's a bed there, so we kind of snuggle up in that, and it gets dark, and we go to sleep, and then we wake up with the sunrise, and we do yoga on the beach. She's a real yoga fan. And I know how, I've done yoga, so I know a few stances. So we do that. And I kind of show her Tai Chi, and she really loved that. And we were, when there was nobody around, we were always naked, period, So that little shack was our little homestead, because we had this gigantic beach. Nobody ever came down until construction really started. And the construction wasn't going to start until they got the road in. And I thought that would take months. They brought in like 300 guys, and all they had were these like little hammers. And the trucks, the dump trucks, would bring these stones that were like, lumpy kind of stones. I don't know where they got them, but they'd truck after truck after, and these guys would be there with their little chink, 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 and then place it. And they were like made a cobblestone road with no, they cleared it with axes and shovels. They, graded it, and they had no heavy equipment whatsoever. They did everything by hand, and they made this like 2-mile road from the top up there. It kind of came down and then swung way over. So it wasn't really steep, and it didn't have really hard turns. It just kind of had these beautiful little sways. It had 3 sways to get down to where we're going to build it, right? And they did that in less than 2 weeks. It was really frigging amazing, right? Now, it took another 2 weeks to kind of logisticize everything. And so the doctor and I had a very sweet time. But once that, once people were there and things were going all the time, we either stayed in my little fishing shack, or she had a really great apartment, like right in the middle of town. And there was this hill the road that went up to the hospitals and the others where the castles were. She had a very nice stone house that had been the gatehouse, but that was her thing. And there was a building down below that had been one of the first hotels, but when they built the fancy hotels, she turned that into the clinic for the people. And so the people loved her and feared and loathed the others, and the madame and the police chief and that whole crew. And they ruled through fear, right? I mean, people would go missing, if someone did something, or they would have, welts on their bodies. And I mean, it was quite, there was that, 900, servants or serfs really had they were slaves, more or less. I mean, they were living in a great place. They were well fed. They kind of all had a relatively kind of nice, way better than the favelas that are in Rio. So they thought they were lucky, and they made some money, meaning either by being a fisherman or being a farmer or by working in the hotel, or they were actually making a living per se, but they couldn't get out, unless, they hit the lottery or something. But anyway, so work was going on. The doctor and I just became sweeter and sweeter and faster friends. And we were being the example of what being nice was. And so all the servants loved her because she took care of them as their doctor. And they would get broken bones and, get beat up by the cops and shot and things like that. And so she was always taking care of them. And she interceded for them, and she was their voice. And her father ran the hospitals, and was one of the others, right? And so anyway, as time went by within a month, it was humming along. The club was working great. I designed it, showed the madam. She gave me her inputs. We were going to Rio and Sao Paulo to get stuff that we couldn't make there, like real kitchen appliances and other things, lights and plumbing stuff. Because, this had to be up to snuff for the rich people from Europe to want to hang in. They couldn't just be like, shit through a hole in the floor into the ocean, So we had to do all that kind of stuff. And we were building it to look like Rick's in the movies, right? And that's the name of the place, Rick's, right? And McGill stopped wearing his raggedy shorts and T-shirts, and he was like Tattoo, in that TV show. The plane, boss, the plane, But he was a lot cooler than Tattoo. He was a little kid, but he had his own, like, he had the same clothes, he had the linen pants, the silk shirt, and the hat and the cane. and he loved black sunglasses, right? So uh, then about the second month, he shows up with this little bulldog, and he goes, Rix needs a bulldog, needs a guard dog. And I found this puppy, and someone just threw him away. And he was like this little teeny weeny. And he goes, this is a bulldog. And I looked him up, and he's going to be a big, strong. And if he attaches to us, he'll be, and I go, well, okay. He's going to be our dog, but you're going to be the dog boy. You're going to take care of him. You're going to do everything about it. You and him, inseparable. Yes, he will know that I am the alpha dog, but you're like his twin brother, right? So for the first week, I walked with that dog in my linen shirt pocket, right? So he would get my scent and everything that was food and everything that dog wanted came from me the first 2 weeks. And then, I got Miguel a shirt that, a silk shirt like that, but with a bigger pocket than he had, so the dog would fit. And so he took over. So it was 4 of us: the doctor, me, Miguel, and the dog was named Rick, of course, right? Sound good to me. I mean, I said, Miguel, what are we gonna call him? Rick. Okay. Or Little Rick. Just let's keep it simple. So, and so the second month, the road was done, the foundations were poured, the design was fixed, we were accumulating materials and building the building. And it was about an 8,000 square foot building. And you came in and it had a great grand entrance into it, and the road was about 4 steps up. So you came into this grand entrance, and then, like Rick's, you walk from the grand entrance, which was where you signed in. We took your credit card, or to get in, you had to give up your credit card or $100, in cash. Benjamin, right? Benjamin, and then you signed in, and we gave you a table, and you had your own waiter. Each table had their own waiter, and we had a lot of sous chefs, so a good deal of the food would be prepared. So each table, we had about 50 tables, and there was a top bunch of tables that were like little stages that were up above. So you walked in through the main entrance. There were no doors, but it was just grand pillars, and you walked in, and we had a terrazzo. All the floors in Rick's were terrazzo, except once you walk past the dance floor, it went to the beach. And a third of Rick's, the tables, the lower end tables, were on the beach, right? And we had big stone grills, because majority of everything, Brazil is all about meat, and we would have 20 different types of meat, every cut of the cow, and we had a cow on the spigot. I mean, if you didn't like meat, you would not like Rick's. I mean, we had really good vegetables and lots of other stuff, because the Brazilian, they have great antipasta, right? They have really great food, and the waiter would bring your meat to you on a sword, and it would be flaming, and he would take with his big fork, take the meat and put it on your plate, right? And he would prepare that on this little table, and then, after the flames were over, and so that meat would be cooked to perfection and be sizzling and unbelievably the hottest, not spicy, but temperature-wise, really, not cold meat, right? And it had lobster and every kind of fish and every kind of vegetable and every kind of everything you could ever think of there. And so your experience, like you were on stage, you were the star as the customer, right? And so we made close to 20 to 50 grand a night, right? And so when we were about to open, and I was getting a staff because we needed, we were going to have maybe around 200 to 500 people at this place. And pretty much, the people in the high end had their own waiters, but we still had you never had to wait for anything. So we had a staff of about 200. And in the kitchen, we had about 50 people. And then we had the band, and then we had a whole bunch of other girls, barely dressed with cigarettes and everything else you want to smoke or pharmaceutical, whatever party treats you wanted. This place was off the hook. We owned the police, right? So anyway, and that's Buzios. And so before we opened, about 3 weeks before we opened, we were pretty much all done building it, right? And Madame would come down and have dinner there. And we had 3 major chefs that we got out of Sao Paulo. And we had real super duper modern kitchen, right? Like in any top-notch New York French, electric, gas, you name it. We had running water, dishwashing machines. We had it all, right? And we had a number of, because it rained all the time, so we had a number of catchments for water that went into stainless steel tanks. So we always had 1,500 gallons of water at any time, right? And so we're getting our staff, and Michael, who you haven't heard about Michael, but the lawyer kept saying on the first phone call, "Do you know Michael Keene?" And I'd hang up. He owes me $500, right? So anyway, Michael was an amazing artist. He was just such a cheeky monkey, right? He slept with every woman under the sun. He was really handsome. He was a great singer. He was like Frank Sinatra, a mixture of David Bowie and Frank Sinatra, and a really good painter, right? And really, so when we were designing it, I had him put in a lot of his thoughts of it. And the bar was I kind of drew an initial, I'd taken a few party treats from the doctor, and we were basically doing everything possible to experience each other's consciousness intimately. And I got this amazing flash of what the bar should look like. So I was, doing everything physically and painting at the same time, and drew this kind of very strange painting. I said, Mike, this is what the bar is going to look like. And so he took that and did a much better drawing, like working drawing, and we had a bunch of carpenters. We had every kind of trade there. And so they started whittling away at building this mahogany bar that was like a spaceship / acid dream / I have a couple pictures of it. It's pretty. And so Mike was great that way. And he was, the singer, right? The star of the band. And we had these, there was I don't know what it's called. There's a style of reggaeton is what it's called. And in Brazil, there was its own version. Before reggaeton, Brazil had their own, they didn't call it reggaeton, but it was reggae music with African, Brazilian, and indigenous folk soundage in it. And it was really, you hear this stuff, you could not dance. You just had to dance. It was like reggae, but reggae on really good acid, with some Capa Caprina, right? And a good shot of Paddy's Irish whiskey. Anyway, so we're, the last 3 weeks, and that was the most exciting. It's like opening night, right? We're getting ready. And so I hire a staff of about 300 waiters and busboys and everything else. And I pay everyone who's on the floor $5 a day. Right now, the average income of the serfs at the hotels and the waiters and all of those guys, they were getting a nickel a day. And so when I told, when it got to the home office with a, madame. I was going to pay everyone $5, and I was going to pay the chefs, the people working in the kitchen, $10, and people who were above just the workers, the chefs, the three chefs, I was going to pay them $100 a night, right? And they got paid pretty good in Sao Paulo. They came from pretty good restaurants, and I said, I'm going to get you $100 a night and a weekly bonus, right? And I'll get you a really great place to live and blah, 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 right? So anyway, it came, there was, no cost was spared to build the place, but to run, she said, you're going to pay these people $5. Everyone wants $5. Well, maybe you should pay everyone in this who works in this town $5. And she goes, well, we would, they won't work at why would they work at all? And I said, you don't understand this. It's respect. It's like appreciation. It's giving them value. They'll work even harder. And I said, you don't have to pay everyone in town $5. That $5 is going to trickle down through the whole economy. It's going to make the town so much better, honest. And then you can pay these people. I mean, we're going to make somewhere between 10 and 50 grand a night, and you're worrying about, an overhead of $800. Well, it's $800. I said, trust me, you put me in charge. You brought me here. This is what we're going to do, because these guys are going to give service to these rich people like they've never had, and that's worth $5 a day. Come on. Not just a day, right? They're going to be chopping carrots and cleaning things, and everything's going to sparkle. Trust me, it'll work. And she goes, okay, I'll trust you. So we had opening night, and it was like better than the mix of the Waldorf and, the red carpet and winning the Oscar. It was like truly frigging amazing, right? And so, the Eurotrash showed up, and the place was packed, and the VIP lounge was full of these guys in white tuxedos. And one of them was my girlfriend, the doctor's, her father. And he was known as the doctor. I just called her the doctor, right? And she liked that. And so, because the only person who got to be called doctor was her father, and I called her doctor. Anyway, so it's the opening night, and she's in an unbelievable gown, and she's on my arm, and Miguel, he's like wearing the same tuxedo I am, but he's like the mini me, and the dog is there. I mean, I have some pictures of it. It's kind of amazing. So anyway, and the madam, she's like the queen. I mean, I got her a throne, and in the club, she had her own like place, and she had a throne, and her entourage would be around her. Anyway, so it goes off amazing. We made $70,000 that night, first night, 70 grand, cash, right? Not even credit cards. And she is just ecstatic, hugging, kissing me. Oh, you did such a great job. Oh, yes, you're brilliant. $5 means nothing. Oh, it's great. I feel so good. And she started to become a human being rather than Jabba the Hutt, right? And the police chief, he had a new uniform. He had his guys there in new uniforms. And, it looked like something, Wizard of Oz meets, the Oscars meets the Waldorf meets, anyway. So that night's really amazing. And so somewhere in the evening, after everything, and I'm just kind of, I have this like little perch that my table, right? But it's not a big one. Don't have, it's me and the doctor and maybe 4 other people can sit there. And Michael's belting out the things, and everyone's dancing. And the dance floor, big dance floor, not terracotta, rococo, whatever that stuff is it's stone that they kind of grind down. Terrazzo, that's what it's called. And it goes to the beach, and then the beach goes to the ocean, and there's 1,000 people dancing, and they're like, and the dance floor next to the band on the sand, and they have tables and they're drinking. We had like 8 bars, and it's just like I said, we made 70 grand that night. And there's like 300 people in the ocean having sex in their evening gowns and tuxedos, and I mean, it was quite interesting. And my sweetie is, just kind of cooing, going, "This is amazing. I've never seen anything like this." And it's ours. I said, "Baby, it's yours." And she goes, "It's mine?" And then she chuckles. She goes, "You cheeky monkey. It's not neither of ours. It's my father's." I said, "I thought it was the madam's." And she goes, "No, I'm going to now tell you the story." And she goes, "The madam is just the front, right? It's the public poster of Buzios. But this is 100% a Nazi Hail Hydra establishment to launder money, to sell drugs, to blackmail politicians, a Jeffy. It was a Jeffy. And the other thing is these hospitals, this, and then she tells me the whole story about how the, the Hail Hydra, that the Germans were bombed into the Stone Age. The Nazis won the war, went to the moon, went to the South Pole, and went to America and took over America. And she's like, I'm sitting there drinking a cup of Caprina, that's made with psilocybin, and smoking the best ganja there is. And she's telling me this, and there's music and everyone's dancing, and she's telling me this horror story. And she goes, "And my father is one of the main people of all of this. He's like, the doctor of the island, Dr. Moreau. He is Dr. Monroe. He is, and I'm the daughter of Dr. Monroe. And that's why I'm stuck here." And I'm going, "Okay, you're just telling me this because I am tripping my brains up, right? You're just pulling my..." She goes, "Nope, I'm going to go over meet my father wants to meet you." And so, we go up to and he goes, "Senor Rick, or should I call you Dr. Rick? Or is it Sir Rick?" He's got this German accent like you, and he's got a monocle. I mean, this is like out of central casting. Anyway, she goes, "Sit down." And he goes, "My daughter says that you play Go very well." I taught her that. We need to play. She goes, Do you play billiards?" I said, "Oh, yes." And he goes, "How about bridge?" I said, "Nah, my mom played bridge. I was never really the card player." He says, "Okay. Well, your club is a complete success. It is beyond my wildest dreams." And I said, "So your daughter tells me that you're actually my boss and the madame is just..." And he goes, "Yes, she is my puppet, my poster girl, And she goes, "Everything here is an edifice. It's all make-believe." And he goes, "And so is the world." This is 1988, 89, right? And I'm going, "Okay." And so he goes, "We're going to become fast friends. I knew of your work in Duke University. I knew of your work in the National Laboratories. I knew that you worked for Grandpa Stoll." And he just went on and on about my life. And I just met this guy this minute, right? And I'm keep looking at my girlfriend, looking at him, looking at her. And she's just like squeezing my butt and chuckling, right? And so he goes, "Tomorrow we will have lunch at the hacienda." And I said, "Okay. And my daughter will bring you. And I am so glad that you were with her. She needed a man like you." And like I said, I was close to 50, right? It's 49 or something close to that. And so, and she's like 28, 27, 30, somewhere in there. And so, the night goes on, and I had my own apartment upstairs, where So the big entrance was here, and the stairs went to the VIP and the this, and there was a staircase that fed into the VIP, fed into the top 100, and then out to the back bar, and then into the kitchen, and then I had an office back there too, right? And the business office, and so we're there, and the night goes on, and she's on my arm in this amazing gown, and everyone's there. Miguel, the dog, me, the doctor, Miguel's brothers and sisters are all working there. I gave them upper echelon jobs, and I gave the elder sister the managerial. I put her in charge of the whole place, right? Because she was making $18 a week at the hotel, right? And she had to deal with every, clean the toilet, you name it. I said, honey, this is going to be your place, and I'm going to pay you $500 a week to run this place. She did, like a top. And she, employed the rest of the family. Her mother worked there, and her mother was, not only was she a great seamstress, but she was a great botanist, right? So she had a garden, and there were plants growing everywhere, flowing over the walls and from the ceilings, and that was what Mom's job was, and to make the linen, right? The tablecloths and the napkins and the suits for everybody, and that family did very well, right? And we then proceeded, because we had this whole forest that went along the beach to the thing, and the dream was to build hotels all along there, all the way into the touristy part of Buzios, where the other hotels were, and they were kind of squinched in to that 3-mile part. So anyway, what we did was that thing went up to where the road was, and so we, that road that was first there, we kind of carried back into town. It was like the back way ins where deliveries were made, etc. But they went the other way. I mean, when there was nobody there, we delivered down the cobblestone road. But anyway, whatever was easier, meaning the food came in the back, the booze came in the front. So anyway, we built a number of beautiful little houses along the back road, and they were almost on the beach, but they were on the other side of that road, and they cultivated all those trees, because there were a lot of bananas and mangoes and every other kind of, foresty fruit, and it was just beautiful. It was like a park, a garden, right? And so that was being done while we built, it. So everyone who worked there had a really nice place to live and didn't pay rent and could stay there for as long as whatever. And the houses they lived in, they could afford to buy and then become landlords, right? And have an income, a thing that they could build wealth with, right? And then they started little businesses and had little restaurants of their own, which made Buzios even more interesting, right? Instead of having just these 20 things that, the doctor and Madame had, right? And I convinced them that by doing that, their business would be so much more lucrative, so much better, so much everything. And the people would be happy to be there rather than kind of being there and, revolution at any point. But these people were happy to be there, And other people in Brazil heard about this and were like, oh, boy, I wish we had, the guys in the favelas in Rio, definitely, because they were making their 3 cents a day from picking through the garbage. Anyway, so that went on and on and on for about a year. And it just was more fun, more strange, more everything. The guy who had the band, he was Brazilian 100%, but he was Irish. He had red hair. And he said that he was the reincarnation of Jimi Hendrix and Jesus Christ. And he was, he could play the guitar like that, and he almost walked on water, right? He was really tall, really thin, lots of freckles, and super red hair. And Michael sang. He was a lead guitar, and he had a band of natives, right? And so, so this again would make it's going to be one of my stories in the novel, of the work in progress. That's the fourth novel of the series. Anyway, so it's going along great. I'm doing great. Everyone's doing great. Michael's happy as a clam. Our friends from New York come and visit us. And it's just an amazing adventure, right? So I'm really love my doctor girlfriend, right? And she loves me, right? But she was never going to get out of there. I did not have the kind of money she would need to buy her freedom, right? And basically, the doctor and madam basically hooked me up with her because they knew that we were like, once we hooked up, that would be it. And they're just waiting for a baby. And so, 2 months went by, 3 months went by, 4 months went by, 6 months went, and we just having greater time and making money and basically, what happens is around the 7th month, one day, every night she would come down and have dinner with me earlier on, and we'd stay and if she had to do a procedure or operation or something the next day, we'd go to sleep upstairs early, right? Or we would go to her place, right? Because it was just a 20-minute walk. The back road went right into town. So, that taking it that way, it's just a very pleasant 20-minute walk to her house in main downtown. And even though it was right kind of in the middle of town, it was up that hill a bit towards the hospital. So even no matter how much people were partying downtown, it was still a very quiet, very sweet little house. And so, we would do that, and one night she didn't show up. And I'm kind of, she didn't show up. I wonder what that means. She's sick? So I get on channel B. Hey, honey, what's up? An answer. Anyway, next morning, I knock on the door, and there she is, right? And she brings in breakfast instead of Miguel, right? Or one of the girls. And I say, so what's the story? And she goes, well, I love you more than my life itself. I said, yeah, but I just have to get out of here. And I know you can't get me out of here. But I met a duke, an English duke, a real life English duke. And he's a putz, he's a moron, but he's a billionaire and he's part of the royal family. And we got married in the the little chapel by the priest, and it's a done deal. And my father basically kind of implemented because he wants to get control over this guy. And I will be able to be a duchess and go to England and live in a castle and be a doctor, start my own hospital, do my own thing, and you can come visit me, because at a certain point, this guy, I'll either get divorced from him or I'll stay married to him and he'll screw around with whatever he's screwing around with, but I will have the title and the money and the power. And she was kind of, even though she was amazingly sweet and humanitarian towards all the people there, she still was her father's daughter, right? So, and her father orchestrated this. And She got out the next day. She flew out on that guy's private jet, never to be seen by me again, right? But I was still there. And so uh, the next day, the lawyer drops by and so, how you doing? I said, I go, yeah, I knew. I mean, when I talked to you on the phone that first time, I kept hanging up on you, and then you convinced me of the $5,000. I knew that this was not going. This was just a gig. I understood that. Yes, me and Maria, that was her name, Maria. Were that was very, that was like the cherry on top of the Sunday, and so, and he goes, "You are quite the mature man." I said, "Well, yeah, I guess I am, if you say so." Anyway, well, the doctor wants to see you. So, I'm supposed to, he said, you have to come to the hacienda. And he goes, he wants you to, I'm going to drive you up there and you're going to stay a while, a week maybe. And he will explain a lot of things to you and it will be okay. I said, I know it's okay. I'm just a little, that was pretty amazing. He goes, yes, she was an amazing woman, just still is. And, and she got out of here. No one ever gets, don't get out of here. No one gets out. You got out. I mean, you're going to get out. She did get out. And because you were just brought here to do a few things, to do the club, to do the thing with Maria, and the doctor has something else for you to do. And now I know the whole story of the doctor, Nazi, time traveler, his technology is 1,000 years ahead of whatever is going on in what we think is high technology in 1989. And so, the lawyer drives me up there, and his hacienda is bigger than Versailles in France. I mean, it's just, it just goes on for freaking, and gardens. And so we drive in, and the entrance is mind-boggling big, right? These big Roman columns, and basically we drive up. This woman who's barely dressed and amazingly, I can almost smell sex on her, and she opens the door and says, "Come with me, sir." And I go with her, and she takes me to the doctor's library, which is this amazing library, gigantic library. And, 3/4 of it is, in the house, but the other 1/4 is out on this veranda that goes all the way around the mountainside of this gigantic hacienda / Versailles. And he's sitting out there, and he's got no lunch. And these other amazingly gorgeous women that you can taste their sexual powers are scantily dressed, and I mean, it looks like the set of a porno movie, and they're serving us this amazing lunch that just goes on, and a course after course, first the sherbet, and then the cold antipasto, and then a lemon jello, and then the hot antipasto, and then a soup, and then a salad, and then fish, and then the meat, and then the vegetables, and it just went on, and with liquors and alcohol and other tasty things, and they were all kind of tapases. I mean, truly amazing, but not like gigantic plates, right? But you can have as much as you want of any of that stuff, right? So, and we eat for about an hour and a half, and he talks all about all the secret societies and the whole hierarchy of the Anunnaki, and how the Earth is just a make-believe hologram laboratory for this alien insectoid race, and the humans are just mud puppet slaves, and wars are a thing that these insectoids feed on, and all of the depravity, starvation, and etc. is manifested for the pleasure of these insectoids. and that humans actually are very special creatures of love and light, and they're just not allowed to be the spiritual entity that they are. And that's why they're stuck in reincarnation and just reincarnated over and over and over. And they're not just on Earth, they're out in space, and they're, there's a whole culture out there. And, our solar system had been many other cultures and had been invaded, and there was a war, and the whole belt, the whole asteroid belt, is a remnants of 3 planets that were just exploded by the Death Star, and the moon of Earth is the Death Star that got parked there to like be the sheriff in the solar system. And he went on and on and on and on, and I just like drank more lemon yellow and smoked more spliffs and ate more of these cream little tarts, and going and drinking this great coffee, and just great story, and yet I knew this was true, just like when you listen to me, you guys are constantly going, I'm always saying, don't believe a word I say, and you're always going, yeah, I can taste that he's telling the truth. JC's back. What is shaking? Think about thinking about you, buddy. I'm always thinking about, JC, or as I call him, LG. He is a hero. He's a saint. He is all the amazing stories I tell you. He's got them too. So how long have I been alive? Well, born in 1950, so you can do the math, right? So that's how old I am. And I was just thinking, when I died in 2014 and came back, and I was really sick for 6 years, that gave me a moment to ponder my mortality. And then I got better, from 14, 2018, I was pretty much better. But, this whole last 2 weeks, I've gone seen my good, or fancy, not good, but fancy doctors, right? I have an endocrinologist, I have a bone doctor, I have a podiatrist, I have a blood doctor, I have eye doctor, muscle doctor, because I have, an organ doctor. So I have, things wrong with all these things, right? And they, and their kind of deadpan joke is like, I'm the healthiest dead guy they know, right? Because I have all these things wrong with me, and they're not going to get better. But I have them through conscious intent. My conscious intent of homeostasis of my body, that it's okay, because I got another 3 lives. I have one more twin flame in me that I will have children. I mean, biological children. I will have a child somewhere between 73 and 76. And then I'll live another 10 years to be their dad until they're 10 or maybe 15 years, So I'm going to live that long, even with all this stuff wrong with me, because, I have the will to do it, and I'm in service to love's co-creation. And that's part of the contract that I signed, right? And I'm not going home until I pretty much do my best at all of this stuff, right? So anyway, a doctors give me the whole, and then we take a little tour, and all of the servants and so we walk all, like from about 3 in the afternoon when the sun has gone down from its really hot point to heading toward 8:30. So we're walking around, and we go to all of these farms and all of these paddocks and all of these barns, and they're all of these people / creatures. And so in a lot of his shops and a lot of his like, I don't want to call them factories because that would mean they were mass producing, but they had these places where they were making things, right? And they were creatures there that were human, that could talk to you, that could think, that, you know, had 2 arms and 10 fingers, but they were like 18 feet tall and could lift like 2 tons, no problem, right? And there were these girls. I mean, everybody there except the doctor and the others were, I mean, even the doctor was genetically enhanced, but all the rest, the other 200 servants or whatever you want to call these folk, were genetically manufactured. And that's what he did for the rich folk who wanted to change their faces and their fingerprints and their genetic structure. He put their consciousnesses into a artificial biological entity, or what we would call today transhuman. So this is 1989. And he had it down. So they were doing this like they were genetically playing with things in the 1930s. And their technology from about 1890 on was, you know, in 1890, their technology was 600 years ahead of where 1890 technology was. In 1989, he said it was 3,000 years. He said they already had faster than light. All the flying saucers we saw were mostly ours. There were a ton of alien races that lived on Earth and had lived on Earth way before Homo sapiens, that we were artificial creatures, and that our spirit was the thing that was really special about us, right? And yet we were disconnected from it, separated, right? So he tells me all of this. And I'm, you know, that's right up my alley. You know, I love, you know, and then he showed it to me, you know, at his hacienda, all of these shops and laboratories, and you know, he had, if you want to go to any one of those women that you can taste their sex, they want to have sex with you, right? So if you get that smell and that taste, and you start to get a little frisky. And he goes, "Why do you think my daughter was so, you know, you were so attracted?" I said, wait a minute. Your daughter was manufactured? And he goes, "Well, yes and no." I said, "Yes and no." He says, "Well, you know, because I inseminated a woman, she was born of that woman in the usual way, but that woman was manufactured. And so everything about both sides was semi-manufactured, but she herself was not like made in a test tube, right? But all of the genetic material, so she was enhanced. That's why she was so beautiful, so smart, so this, so that, so amazing, you know? And I needed, if I was going to have a child had to be as amazing or more amazing than me. And she was, because she was a woman, you know? And I think of women as superior to men. That's what the doctor said. So, you know, and he said, she was, you know, not engineered for you, but you fit the bill. You know, why did she never really have ever a sex partner? Or I said, what? I was the first guy. I said, no, the way first time, no, she was pretty well experienced. And he goes, yes, she had a few experiences, but what she was doing with you was true all the way down to her DNA. That's why you guys were so great to each other, right? And I needed for her to have you experience, because for her to be able to get the Duke, all those things had to be turned on. And so you turned her on and snapped all those switches, and the 8 months that you guys were together was the time to bring her to total fruition. And I was going, and, you know, I felt but I mean, every time I felt like boy, I was used. No, I had the most amazing freaking experience in the universe, right? And so, and I already had my twin flame of my wife, right? And and this was, you know, in between me, her death, and me, um, working for the New York City Housing Authority. Because when I came back, I had this I mean, I had seen so much, and because I'm not even finished with the story here of seeing so much, I came back to New York, and it was like about a year and a half had passed, and yet when I walked back into my abandoned building, it was like I just left it this morning. I mean, all the same crap was going on, all the same nutty, that's when I said, I got to get out of here. And that's when I said, well, and before I went to Brazil, I had tied a lot of threads back to, together so I could go be away for at least a year or more. And so I said, okay, I now have to do this with New York 100%. And that's when I got offered this job because of our housing coalition, winning our legal thing in the New York City Housing Authority absorbed our coalition and did it our way and let everyone keep their apartments and kept its separate beautifulness. But I had to go to work for the New York City Housing Authority. And I did. And I went to work within their police department as a negotiator, as a conflict resolution guy. Anyway, so back to Brazil. So, every time I thought that I was being used, I said, no, this is like, an experience no one else has. And this is a great gift. I'm going to look this as I'm, this has grown me up, matured me in ways that, and I still, to this day, I'm still growing up, right? I'm still a work in progress. I did not cross any finish line yet, right? So anyway, so he goes, so, you came, you built the disco, and by doing that, you've changed Buzios in a social, cultural, dynamic, and financial for us way that we didn't even, you are the unexpected consequence, right? And then what you did with my daughter was, again, she bloomed in a way that we knew she had to hook up with you to get turned on to all she could be, but she has so much more flowered, and she will be a more amazing asset than I ever thought she could be, right? And that's because of you. And now, the third thing I want you to do is we're going to go to my camp up in the rainforest, right? And you're going to see what's going on there and what is going to happen to the world. And I said, okay, when we going? He goes, well, you kind of need to be prepared for what I want you to do. I said, oh, really? And what's that? He goes, well, here you're going to go through a process where, you're going to have you ever had a colonic? I said, oh, yes, I've had a colonics. I said, do you like them? I said, well, I like the way they make me feel. Getting a thing jabbed up my butt, I've gotten over that, and it's not a big deal. But I know what it does and how it helps my biome. And he goes, so what we need to do is we're going to have one of those a day, and we're going to not only flush you with water, but we're going to put other things up there that's going to really enhance the intelligence of that 20 billion little creatures in your colon. And so you will be, 6 and above. 6 and above. And so, yeah, well, all the mud puppets here have their 5 senses. The 6 and above is the other 6 senses that are wired into your pineal gland, but you never use, right? Except for a few of you who are a little psychic or a little this or a little that, right? So that colonic will, bingo, enhance you like you will be amazed. And you will be eating a way different diet because you're going to go into the rainforest And if you were eating like you're eating now, lobsters and steaks and French fries and all the above, you would be eaten by the insects. You would not last a day. You would become, fertilizer on the floor. So we have to change everything so the insects will just see you as part of the forest and not to be eaten. I said, okay, that's going to be interesting. So they did, you know. So these, and you're going to have a lot of um, what I call electric sex. We have 300 of um, these sexual entities that will charge you in ways that you don't even know. so, so I had a whole week of colon things and diet stuff and electric sex, right? And I mostly just was being massaged and in the steam room, and every little piece of crap was taken out of me, every little toxin, every little residue of a French fry or a hot dog was taken out of me. When they were giving me the colonics, they had this a part of the hose that went in my butt. There was a place where there was a glass tube and a mirror. So when I was lying there, I could look up at the mirror and I could see the crap coming out of me. And oh, look, there's the birthday cake from when I was 6. So that was an interesting week. And so I was glowing, I was like a crystal, right? So we then get on his yacht and go, through this river and that river, and then into the Amazon, then up the Amazon, and we get to the fork in the road. And that way, as far as you could see, every tree had been chopped down, and fires were burning everywhere. And there were these gigantic floating factories taking in the mahogany trees and spitting out, uh, you know, mahogany plywood, for furniture and walls and rich people's houses. And it was like the most, it was hell. It was the most, I've seen some pretty horrific things, but this was way off the charts, right? And everyone was like being whipped, and there were all these genetic creatures that were like, big as bulls, and were, tearing down the trees with their hands, not even chainsaws. And it was just, a horror show. And then we took the left bend. That was the right bend, and this was the left bend. And we went up that, and it was heaven. It was beautiful and beautiful. And so his little camp was a smaller version of Versailles, right? And we went up there, and there were a number of, genetically engineered creature humans, and there were a number of indigenous people, tribal folk from the forest. But they had been amongst white people most of their lives, since, it was their grandparents who never saw a white person, right? But they spoke every tongue there was, and most of them were telepathic. Now, I had been, sharpened up to my, six senses and above, and I was telepathic, and I spent a week with those folks to experience it and not be scared of it, and to feel it and to be comfortable with it, etc. Right? So I want you. So pretty much everybody here has been saying things like "was there" or "was there," or "no, but I will," or "sup guys," and "how long," and "hey man." So I'm gonna go use the little powder room, and I'll be right back and work on this story some more. And I want you to think of some questions that are a little more evolved. After experiencing today's breakfast, where those 10 people had like a Vulcan mind melt and experienced what human beings should be, and what if they were, we would have peace on earth and abundance for everybody. I want you to, conscious intent I am, not conscious moron I am, right? So I don't want to diss anyone of the cadre, but I want you to step up. So I have to go use the powder room. So I will be back. And so I want you to go into state, meditate. Remember, breathe deep, illuminate, conscious intent I am, conscious aware I am. Let's see you change your whole being by the time I get back. And I needed to walk too. Ay, ay, ay. Nobody here. Well, 2 hours, 26 minutes, 31 seconds. Well, no one's here. So I'm going to go too. Yeah. Like I said, I'm looking for the cadre that will ask some interesting questions. The chat is that, it's to have a dialogue, right? Not a monologue. I'm telling you stories. I'm doing the monologue. So I'm going to talk a little bit more and chew on this prune, and I'm going to go to bed. I will finish the story. I'll pick it up from where the doctor brought me up the Amazon to his ranch. So, whatever monsters you think there are, whatever horrors that you may see on the news porn channels, they do not even come close to what's actually going on. And in the first Blade Runner movie with Harrison Ford, those creatures that were clones, right? And that they had a limited shelf life, right? And that's what they were trying to get something that they could inject into them and that they would live a normal 100-year life, right? And there's this one clone that's got Harrison Ford, and he's about to break him in half, and he's hanging him off the side of a building, and it's raining, and he talks about being on a faraway planet, that has a strange atmosphere, and he's like mining or fighting or doing something, and he describes the beauty of it. And I talked to a number of these creatures, and they had that kind of perspective. It was the same kind of perspective that Enkidu had in the book of Charlemagne. Enkidu was an artificial. It was an animal that that character, the Greek tragedy, and the Shakespeare Tempest, Gilgamesh. He's put on an island. He's lonely, so he makes a friend from an animal. And that was kind of what the Doctor had done. And this whole breakaway civilization that exists, the whole movie, The Matrix, is pretty much true. I mean, there are differences and degrees and things of that matter, but hard to eat a prune and talk when you have no teeth. So, anyway, I'm going to go. There's only one of you. No one's asked any real interesting questions. It would be nice if you did, but you haven't. It's just, hey, Bob. Okay. What's up? Ooh, Bangarajara. Wazoo. Come on, guys. I mean, I feel the love and affection that you all have here, and I appreciate that. And but I started this channel to develop a cadre that would go out there and change the world. Right? So tomorrow, I want to hear from you guys on what you want to, how you want the world to be changed. How do you see how you can change it? What do you want to be the person you want to be? And what are you going to do to change it? Right? So, and I will tell the end of this story because it fits in good to the context of that question. What do you want to see in the world in front of you? How do you want to change for the better? Okay?